Hello everyone, welcome to the Wolf Pack. OmnicientWolf here with a special 1000 subscriber Q&A video. You heard right, we hit 1000 subscribers. Yay! Thank you so much to everyone for their love and support. I couldn't be happier with the Wolf Pack we have today. As part of this video, I've asked 4 influential YouTubers, streamers, and designers close to me to come up with 3 questions each that they would like me to answer. You can find their links in the description box below. Usually I would script the answers in advance so that I keep the video as to the point as possible, but this time I will answer candidly for the first time. So if there are any substantial pauses in between during recording, no worries, as this will be cut out in the video you're watching right now. So let's get right to it. So the first question was asked by CJ Games, who's an awesome streamer on Twitch. Definitely check him out. He actually asked me 2 questions and I combined them into one simply because I can't answer one without the other. So his first question was actually, what got you into gaming? And the second question, what was your first console? Both fair questions, and once again, I can't answer one without the other because my first console brought me into gaming. I got my first console, it was the Nintendo Entertainment System, the original, back in 1992-93 when I was 3 or 4 years old at the time. And I haven't looked back since then. I mean, my first game was the Mario/Duck Hunt with the Zapper Gun combination cartridge. And ever since then, I just grew up with gaming. That's what really got me into gaming. The Nintendo Entertainment System turned into the Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis turned into the Nintendo 64. And ever since then, I haven't looked back. I just keep moving forward. And that's what really got me into gaming. I grew up with it. So it's second nature to me. Thanks for asking your question, CJ. The next set of questions come from 2 great streamers/YouTubers, Euphoric D, whom I've had the pleasure of streaming with, and GT210, whom I've had the pleasure of collaborating with on YouTube. I combined their questions together because they were very similar. So Euphoric D asked, what inspired you to start streaming and recording for YouTube? GT210 asked, what made you start YouTube gaming in the first place? To answer this question, I probably have to go back to 2006, 2007. I was in my late teens at the time. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare came, and that was really the first multiplayer experience for me that I really got sucked into and spent a lot of time on. I really enjoyed that game, and I thought to myself, wow, some of the moments, that I was playing, some of the stuff that was going on, I was like, that's footage that I would love to record and love to put up for others to see. Unfortunately, at the time, it wasn't an option. I mean, the technology isn't as it is today. You know, your Elgato game capture card, for example, or some of the game capture cards, they might have had a few back then, but I don't think they are quite as technologically advanced as they are today. Twitch didn't exist back then, so streaming was kind of out of the question. But I sort of wish I had, because back then, I mean, trying to break into the YouTube scene was a little bit easier because gaming commentators weren't as saturated. So it would have been maybe easier to grow at the time. Not taking anything away from those people that have gained a lot of success from starting their YouTube channel back then. Kudos on them for going through with it and working on their channel and growing. Like I said, I'm not taking anything away from them. Good for them. It's just that it's much easier. I think it was just much easier back then than it is now, when there's so many gaming commentators, and you know, you're so busy nowadays, so little time. You have to devote your time to watch your favorite YouTubers. So it's kind of harder to break into the scene, I find. But nevertheless, you know, I'm not entirely sure what got me into gaming at the time that I started my channel. Very difficult to say. I just thought to myself, you know what, I'm playing so many different games, a variety of games, and I'm sure others would love, you know, the opportunity to see it. Like, I watch YouTube as well. I figure others would like to see some of the games I play and my reaction to those games. You know, I don't want to sound self-important in any way. I just figure it might be something that, you know, it's something I already do in part of my leisure time, to play video games. So I thought to myself, you know what, let's take another step and work on it and actually create a sort of more of a work environment. I mean, I enjoy what I do, but I wanted to commentate as well and provide my commentary on some of the video games I play, and, you know, face cam and all that stuff, and so you could see my reaction to the games. And if you enjoy it, the content, great. That's what I'm here for. I want to produce the content so you could see, you could choose if you want to pick up that game, for example, if you haven't played it before, or if you've played the game, you want to see someone else's aspect, how they went about it. I mean, for me, the important thing about starting the YouTube thing was being authentic and being myself. It's very easy to imitate a lot of other YouTubers. I mean, to a certain extent, we all imitate certain YouTubers in terms of, you know, what brought them success, you might want to try for yourself, as long as it's who you are. I'm not gonna become a total obnoxious person that's loud for no reason whatsoever, because that's not my persona. It'd be very difficult to pretend to be someone else. So for me, I'm very authentic. You know that already if you've been watching me. And you know, in terms of what made me start my YouTube gaming in the first place was just because I was already doing it. I was already gaming, so I figured why not add the YouTube part into it. But it's very difficult to do this streaming, recording, and, you know, having a full-time job. So it can be quite tiresome. If YouTube ever becomes my full-time job, well, so be it. I wouldn't say no to the opportunity. That would be actually amazing. But, you know, it's not everyone. It's very few, I think, that actually get up there and move up. Not to get discouraged, of course. I remain an internal optimist. But long story short, that's what made me start my YouTube gaming channel in the first place. Was just the fact that I was already doing it. And I figured, you know what, others would enjoy and maybe benefit from another channel being open. Thanks again for your question. The next question was asked by Nova Duck. She's a streamer, and she's also the person responsible for all the graphics on my channel and on Twitch as well. She's a really great streamer / designer. Her question was, what would be your ultimate game? For example, that one game you would never stop playing as it has every perfect thing you want in a game. Genre, story, character development, everything. Whew, that's a tough question. A game that I would never get sick of playing. You know what? I've always been a big fan of objective-based games, and when I say objective, I mean like objective-based games that vary by difficulty. So let's say GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, like those classics, where they had, you know, Agent, Secret Agent, 00 Agent as difficulties, and you had more objectives as you progress through the difficulty settings. That would be a great start, but I would love a story, an actual story, action-adventure game that follows that type of behavior. So if you choose easy as a difficulty setting, you'll have the basic objectives to go through in the story. Whereas if you choose medium, for example, you'll have more objectives to get through. And then if you choose the hardest, you'll have more objectives to get through as well. So it's not only the, you know, more enemies or more accuracy from the enemies or more difficulty from the enemies, it's more objectives to do and get done. So more mandatory objectives. I'm sure there are games that exist like that, but having that feel of GoldenEye, Perfect Dark with some of the action adventure games like BioShock, for example, would be excellent. And you know what? You can't go wrong with a multiplayer similar to GoldenEye. I know I'm kind of favoring the retro side right now, but imagine GoldenEye Online. It just something similar to that. Anyways, multiplayer I'm not too crazy about. I don't have any specific requirements. I mean, I can't think of that. I just really want a story mode that plays out like GoldenEye Perfect Dark with the objectives that vary by difficulty, but having a story-like feel to it. So story actually differs and is more substantial as you increase the difficulties. So that would be probably my perfect game, the type of game that I would play over and over again, and probably a first-person shooter, even a third-person shooter, but I think I'm more into first-person shooters in general. But that type of action-adventure / objective-based game would be top-notch. Thanks for your question. CJ Games asked, what are your opinions on retro versus current consoles? I'm a little bit biased because I grew up on retro consoles, but I enjoy them all, to be quite honest. I feel like a lot of people that grew up on retro appreciate today's games much more and today's consoles more, just because we grew up in an era with not many advanced graphics and hardly any continues. You have to restart the whole level. At the same time, games have gotten much more easier in general nowadays than they were back then. But overall, I mean, both consoles are great, retro versus current. I just find that if you haven't grown up in the retro era, you might not appreciate the retro era, and I find you might appreciate less the games that are coming out today with the advances in technology, the graphic, the resolutions, and so on and so forth. And if you haven't grown up in the retro era, you might even be more nitpicky in terms of the games you get today, which is not a bad thing. I feel like lately a lot of the games have been broken in some way. They're not complete, whereas back in the retro era, games were complete. There were no updates, live updates, for example. Although, obviously, games have gotten much more complicated and technologically advanced nowadays. So, I mean, the best of both worlds. Just try to enjoy both retro and modern. I go back and forth. I take pride in being a retro and modern gaming channel. Mostly modern, but I go back to retro, you know? Go back to my roots. So, thanks for your question. These next two questions are from Euphoric D. So, firstly, what are your top 3 games of 2014? I actually wrote these out in advance just so I'm not caught stumbling for which games I chose. Some of these might be surprises for you. So my top 3 in no particular order are Watch Dogs, Sniper Elite 3, and Assassin's Creed Rogue. These are games that came out in 2014 and that I played in 2014. There were actually quite a few games last year that I played that were published and released in 2013 that I really enjoyed, but I couldn't include in this list because this is for games released in 2014. So Watch Dogs, firstly, a lot of people had a lot of bad things to say about the game just because they've been following it since the beginning, following the hype. For me, I didn't follow it at all when it was first said that it would be released, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it when it came out. I mean, it plays similarly to Grand Theft Auto, smaller world obviously, and you got the hacking elements and such, and I don't know, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I have nothing particularly bad to say. I mean, the storyline might have been a bit dull at times, to be honest, and Aiden wasn't the most interesting character, but it was a great game nonetheless. It wasn't broken. It was good. Sniper Elite 3, I kind of won that in a Twitch contest, Twitch giveaway, so I got it for free. I was very happy and pleased and really enjoyed the game. Cooperatively as well as solo, such a great game. It's really tactical, and for someone that likes sniping, you really enjoy that game. The only thing I would say is that the co-op, it's unfortunate that you actually need to find a friend, whereas you can't play with anyone random at the moment, which would be great, because that way you could have co-op games all the time, instead of having to, search your friends list for someone to invite. And lastly, Assassin's Creed Rogue, the underrated Assassin's Creed game. Compared to Assassin's Creed Unity, which had a lot of problems for the next-gen console, Assassin's Creed Rogue was pretty stable and offered much more of the same, especially if you enjoyed Black Flag, but it wasn't necessarily a copy-paste per se. I mean, they used a lot of the UI, user interface, and navigation stuff that were similar to Black Flag, but Assassin's Creed Rogue was really well done. And the Templar element added so much more different. The side missions, the main missions, it was an interesting storyline. It was a really great storyline, actually. It's on par with Assassin's Creed 2, which is claimed to be one of the best Assassin's Creed of the series. And what games are you most looking forward to playing in 2015? My top 3 would be Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I've been a big fan of the Metal Gear series since the first one for the PlayStation, the original one. Awesome game mechanics, and I've followed it ever since. Rise of the Tomb Raider. I recently played Tomb Raider, the original one, the reboot version in 2013. And I'm looking forward to this one. More of the same of Lara Croft. Pretty good storyline. I like the mechanics of it. It's really well done. And Mortal Kombat X. I haven't purchased a Mortal Kombat game in a very long time, and I'm really looking forward to this version. It looks pretty awesome. Thanks again for asking your question, Euphoric D. GT210 asked, how would you describe your perfect day? Whew, getting deep there. Perfect day. You know what? A day surrounded by friends and family. I mean, as you get older, you really remember, you really appreciate it more, because the times you actually get to spend with your family and friends are fewer and fewer and further apart. It's only natural. You get older, you get busier, life gets busier with work and other commitments and relationships and so on and so forth. I mean, it's only natural. So you know what? A perfect day for me would be one filled with all my friends, all my family, playing games, whether it's board games, maybe some party games, video games, outdoors, indoors. It doesn't matter where, honestly, as long as I'm surrounded by those people. Thanks again for your question. Nova Duck asked, if there's one thing you'd really love to do in your life, even just once, what would it be? That's a tough question, and I'm probably going to go with a somewhat dull answer, but I'd really love to go to the San Diego Comic-Con one day. I've been to the New York Comic-Con recently. That was my first one I've ever been to, and it was fun and exciting, and I keep hearing that San Diego's got the biggest one. So I'd love to go to that Comic-Con and just take it all in, the movies, the TV shows, the video games, the comics, and soak it all up. I mean, it's not a particularly exciting answer for something I'd like to do in my life, but it's something that comes to mind. Thanks again for your question. GT210 asks, how did you come around to using the persona of a wolf and why? I've always had a keen interest in wolves. I feel like they are the misunderstood creature of nature. I mean, there are other creatures that are misunderstood, but much like the wolf is misunderstood, we misunderstand ourselves as individuals, as a society. It's very deep thought, very deep philosophy. But all that came together, and I've always had an interest in wolves. I even have a tattoo of a wolf. It's just an animal that I've personified, I guess, in a way. And I remember when I had to create my gamer tag for Xbox Live, I wanted to do something with wolf in it, and I couldn't quite figure it out. A lot of tags were taken, and I ended up with OmnicientWolf. And omniscient means all-knowing. So the irony in my actual name, OmnicientWolf, is that omniscient is spelled incorrectly. There's actually an S between the I and the C. So it's a little bit of fun having OmnicientWolf, having an error in my name, so I'm not really all-knowing. And it's just something I took on and personified, and really felt comfortable portraying myself as a wolf, so to speak. Thanks for asking. Lastly, Novadoc asks, what would be your event of choice to raise money for charity? That's a good one. I think an interesting mix would be to have a gaming event while running on the treadmill, for example. Personally, I don't like running on the treadmill, but I think if I were to have a light jog going while playing video games for charity, that would be fun. It would be a nice little twist, having the active element of running and the not so active element, but active in here, at least playing video games. So if I had the equipment, I would definitely do that. I don't have a treadmill, I don't own one. But that would be interesting. That would be definitely an interesting way, I think, to raise money. A unique take on everything. Don't want to go steal it. Someone might have already done it. It's okay. Anyways, thanks for that question. Thank you for watching this special 1,000 subscriber Q&A video. Here's to the next 1,000. As always, thank you for your continued support. Thank you for joining the Wolfpack, and until next time. Ow!